The idea for Stellar Decisis originally came from a conversation I had with one of our founding officers, Sean Case. I told him about how I was thinking of starting a nonprofit dedicated to space law, and he made a quip about a Judge Wapner type, people's court kind of programming. And I said, not maybe not so much like that, more akin to a moot court. And I brought this idea to Nathan, and we he immediately got it.
Based on my background in film and television and my interest in space law, I thought this was a great idea, and it sounded like something that would, at the very least, be fun to do.
And I think within even 15 or 20 seconds, maybe even a minute at most, he had the name Stellar Decisis. We knew we had to play with Starry Decisis somehow.
Already sounds like it has the word star in it, but I was worried that we'd have to explain to people Starry Decisis, spelled S-T-A-R-R-Y. So we needed something that sounded the same but different right away.
In coming up with Stellar Decisis, we thought about storylines, we thought about what areas of law and space activities would be interesting to map out.
Something that as law students and space lawyers, we do anyways. Thinking of these hypotheticals and thinking of how they might play out under the existing law.
Nathan was fantastic in helping us flesh out early ideas, but much of the research into a few of the episodes went to Nivi Raju, who did just an amazing job.
I thought it was really great to work with our colleague Nivi Raju, who is herself a legal expert in space law. The research that she helped us do based on the outline of the first episode that we came up with, I think shows that this is a substantive legal exercise with real law behind it.
I really enjoyed the experience. Working with both Chris and Nathan has been an absolute pleasure. And we also managed to test out our ideas and gain responses from other experts in the space community. And so this, I think overall the experience taught me a lot more about how complicated these questions are and how difficult it is to kind of find one solution and get a decision from the court.
The most exciting thing about this project was getting past the page and actually working with other people to make this concept a reality.
We didn't have all the elements initially there of the full episode. That some of it got into it mostly when we got to the animation, because we couldn't really picture it until we started working with our animator, Maggie Sheehan.
She brought her own ideas and she helped teach us about the process of creating a narrative using visuals.
So initially I was actually thinking about a couple of different shows that had taken on law or real life situations and used animation to kind of show levity or go more into detail in stories. So I was thinking about Harvey Birdman and kind of that Hanna-Barbera approach. And then also the Ricky Gervais show, which took a podcast and then added animation to it to kind of help like add energy to the stories. And so I was thinking that this would be a great exploration in that to kind of take, the more serious components of law or the education of the law and add different imagery to it to make it maybe engaging for people who normally wouldn't maybe think about these issues or kind of know that these sorts of questions have been asked.
She instantly got our vision. I think we were quite fortunate to be referred to her by one of our board members, Jessica Noble. And, from the get-go, she was very helpful in us, being more thoughtful of certain details and capturing really what we were hoping initially when we were thinking about developing this in a way that sets a sense of a familiarity that anyone watching it can really understand.
And working with the actors was a lot of fun as well.
We wanted everyone that participated, the justices and the advocates, to express themselves, as their profession requires, and I think they did such an amazing job, and we're very fortunate to be able to work with these very smart and professional people.
For the advocates, we asked our close colleagues and friends, Jessica Noble and Ryan Noble, to read the arguments that we'd written out in the episode.
I think they brought a sense of realism to, you can definitely tell lawyers are arguing. You definitely tell lawyers are talking.
I think at first I thought that it was a little bit of a crazy idea. I mean, I love the space law moot court, but at first I wasn't sure who was going to want to watch space lawyers argue on YouTube. But people have asked me about it when I've told them about space law moot court before. So I thought, okay, well, maybe this is a good way to educate people and show them what the legal arguments are for cases that could arise out of our use and exploration of outer space.
First reaction when I heard about Stellar Decisis was that it'd be a really cool resource for law students and academics that were interested in space, the legal regimes that govern space, and like promoting access to legal education around, and just general education around how the legal regimes function in space. There's not a lot of accessible, understandable resources for that. It's sort of cloistered in certain law school programs. And so putting it out in the form that Stellar Decisis has, you can reach a much larger audience and communicate what's great about space law and what we learn about studying space law to a wider audience.
The intent, though, always was to try to focus on what happens in chambers. And that was a fun thing to realize, because what we wanted to do is not script it out. We wanted them to have a free-flowing conversation, and we knew, Nathan and I, that it was our duty to find those people within the subject matter areas of the case to have that good conversation. We needed to find those people that could communicate, people that had worked much in those areas.
We asked some great colleagues that we knew, that we respected a lot, and we thought would have great opinions about this case in particular. So President of the Court, Alyssa Adaji.
I thought it was fabulous. It's a very interesting way to bring some dynamic topic in a dynamic fashion to the general public. And so I was more than happy to participate in the experiment.
David Koplow, professor from Georgetown University Law Center.
Well, my first reaction was that it's a tremendously creative enterprise. I don't know anything else that's in any way like this. And so I was a little surprised. There's so little precedent for doing this kind of thing. And it requires a combination of capabilities that's really quite unusual. It requires both legal skill and solid understanding of the legal materials, and creativity and the tech ability to pull that all off. And there are not very many people or very many organizations that can combine all that together. So I wasn't completely sure it would work, but I'm just delighted at how well it's come off.
Chris Newman.
I thought it was a really imaginative and interesting way to make space law come to life. I think one of the things that we always grapple with as educators, as academics and as practitioners in this area, is trying to make it real for people, trying to stop it belong to other people. It belongs to us all. And I thought this was a really interesting way of bringing it down, bringing the scale down, whilst retaining a real human touch, a real humorous touch, and also having real high quality legal discussion in there as well.
They are people that are definitely well known and outstanding in their fields, and are actively contributing, not just from from a piece of paper and a pen, but actively engaged in policymaking, and it's really great to have the most up-to-date thinking, the most state-of-the-art discussions.
Particularly for the justices, since that wasn't a scripted portion of the argument, being in the recording session with them and listening to them discuss the problem that we had written, and having them decide the outcome of it without us knowing what they were going to say was really exciting.
What I did think was really impressive was we'd started to see the initial sort of scope of what it was going to look like. We'd seen some of the graphics, we'd seen the title sequence, so we knew it was coming together really well, and we knew it was going to be a really interesting, sort of visually arresting, and also really professional looking discussion and presentation. And I thought that kind of gave us all confidence. When we started it and when we started the discussion, we knew that this was the real deal.
Every justice took their expertise, their knowledge, and applied it in a very methodical, straightforward way, got very critical, and they stayed objective. And I think that's really an important lesson.
It was absolutely fantastic. It was as close as I'll ever get to be a justice of a space court. I know that.
Seeing the full episode completed was a really proud moment for me and for the team that we had put together to create the show.
What made it so engaging for me was that it did carry out the combination of both serious, legal, academic addressing of the issues, and really did succeed in presenting to the reader, to the listener, to the participants, the legal issues and the complicated context that those issues take place in, and at the same time being very entertaining. It's much more fun to do this, to watch this, to participate, than it is just to read the text of those cases. So for me, the triumph of this program is the combination of both the serious content and the fun-loving way that it was presented.
I think it's a great way to feel and be approachable, because space law can be intimidating. It's especially international space law. It can sound and look very serious and in some way at a distance from people, when it's actually common knowledge that should be accessible to all.
I'm very pleased with the end product. I think that I think it's a huge success because we're trying to break down these very complex concepts in space law and international law. And at the end of the day, I hope that the key takeaway is that these are very real issues. They're not as futuristic as we make them seem, and that we do need answers. We do need new laws, and we do need an actual forum for this. We need a new court. I don't know about a space court where everyone's in astronaut suits, but maybe, but we do need some kind of dispute resolution process to address these issues.
But the interplay, especially in Stellar Decisis, between how Earth-based international law is applied to space is, I think, something that people don't necessarily see very often.
And Stellar Decisis is now bringing that approach to the public, and it's bringing all of the legal issues that are currently being debated in the space law community to the public. So not only are we raising awareness about the issues that are about contemporary issues and problems that are arising in the space sector, but we're also kind of trying to bridge that gap by inviting more people to be part of this.
I think what is most exciting for me about Stellar Decisis and most rewarding is the ability it has to open access to the topics of space law to more students in different professions, in different fields, to more people, which is really important both for the health of the profession, of the state of the law in space law. We're going to improve the jurisprudence of space by having different diverse backgrounds, different diverse experiences, schools of legal thought, different backgrounds and experiences of the people working in the profession. That diversity is important to improve the state of space law. And to date, a lot of the space law programs have been sort of circulated around a few dozen universities around the world that are very good and have subject matter expertise in the field, but it's sort of a smaller lex specialis area that not so many people have an opportunity to interact with. And Stellar Decisis really blows that up. It puts it in a forum on the internet where a lot of more people can have access and participate in the profession.
So I think the way your team did it and the way to animate it and the purpose of those videos themselves help democratize the knowledge of space law.
The takeaway is no matter what, you're going to have some administration of justice once you have a lot of people off Earth. That they will constitute courts and that they will enforce those laws. And that's really important if you're trying to establish a society, a settlement, like a community of people.
And I hope that what people take away from it is this idea that space law is a real thing. And when it is applied in the future, it's applied in the framework of justice. And the goal being that we treat everybody the same and hopefully have an outcome that recognizes everybody's rights in humanity.
We wanted to at least show, familiarity, regularity, things happen. There are lawyers, they get trained, they go to space, they argue, they go home. Judges do the same thing, and then everything that goes around the court.
I do think, as I said, this is a great foundation for seeing how those arguments proceed, for maybe understanding the background law, some of the case law, and just the presentation of oral argument. Even though it is animated, you do get a sense for how oral argument feels in those types of cases.
One of the things that I hope everyone takes away when watching Stellar Decisis is the realization that there's very little certainty in the legal world of outer space, that there is a lot that's still to be decided.
There's never been a case before the International Court of Justice relating to a space law topic.
Take away the legal knowledge, strip away the international treaties. What we're talking about is agreements to do things in a certain way. And what I would love is if people saw that and recognize that they could be part of that. They could be informing their elected officials that actually they want space to be done a certain way. And those elected officials can represent that on the international stage. So I actually think this is a real opportunity to let students know, to let the general public know, to let everybody know that actually space belongs to them, and that the discussions we're having, we're not talking about it from any particular sort of, lofty position. We're just people who know the levers of international law, and we can inform on those and we can advise on those. But everybody should have a piece of space. Everybody should have the ability to speak to their elected representative. And it might sound ludicrous at first, but if enough people do it, the discourse will be going, and we'll start getting that feeling of actually space is entering the mainstream.